Okay, guys, welcome back to part two of a Star Wars Last Jedi review. This review will be going over the spoilers, so this is going to be a crispy firm spoiler alert here right off the bat. I'm going to be going over a lot of the plot, a lot of the issues people have with it, discussing things I really like, things that I thought was just amazing, as well as something that's happened in this movie that's never been done before that I thought was hilarious, that has finally showed its face here in the Star Wars universe. But basically, I want to address a few of the things that a lot of people took issue with. I have a friend online, James, who took a lot of issue with this film. He basically looks at the plot in general of a ship running out of gas, basically, and saying, how is this even dragged out for as long as it was, for all this stuff to happen in the film? And first thing I want to address is the fact that keep in mind that all the governmental systems in the galaxy are gone. All these planets, all these things that keep everything in order have been destroyed from the first film with the new Death Star base. It literally lined up multiple planets and destroyed all of them. So this small group of rebellion ships, this is all that is left to maintain order in the galaxy. So without these people, it's over. So there's a lot of reason to believe that this is kind of a big deal. That being said, though, I want to get into the main thing here, which is the fact that these ships are running out of gas, and to understand what type of ships they are. Basically, my friend James took issue with the fact that they were running out of gas, yet there was not really a way for them to take the ship out. But while it was running away, like, why couldn't they, like, jump in front of the other ship? Why couldn't they do anything else other than chasing the ship? Well, the main thing you need to understand here is that this is a rebellion frigate. It is a giant ship. It's basically the equivalent of a Death Star's Star Destroyer. It's a massive ship. It can't just be taken out by the blasters on the ship. As they're running away, you see multiple times in this film they say we're going to put all of our power into our deflector shields on the back end of the ship. So they're being chased by these people. You can't do anything to really destroy the actual exterior of the ship. And keep in mind that the the First Order doesn't really have the type of ships that the Rebellion has. They don't have bombers. They excel in making like Death Star tech, like big blaster guns that take things out from a massive distance. They don't believe in like the true space combat. They usually leave those for their TIE fighters and other uh, actual fighter groups to deal with. But the thing is, the TIE fighters couldn't really do anything against a ship of this size. They have a shield that they're not ever going to be able to get through with the blasters. And as you can see throughout the film, they're constantly getting shot. And I understand the idea that maybe they could jump in front of them. Yeah, I guess in theory they could have maybe tried to cordon them off. But that's the thing about the First Order is they're a lot like the original Empire. They're just meticulous. There's no reason to do that. They're like a cat playing with their prey. They know they're gonna get it, and then once the first ships start going down, they get closer to realizing that they're going to win. There's no reason for them to like waste their energy doing it. Just chase them. Just chase them until they eventually run out of fuel. They've got them tagged. It's like having a fish on the line, but instead of it being like breakable line, you have like titanium alloy line, and they can't possibly break free of it. It's just another arrogant move by the First Order, which is something that we've seen consistently throughout all of the Star Wars movies, is that the Empire and First Order are both extremely ignorant and cocky. So I do believe that that plot makes sense. And while they didn't try to do anything crazy or jump away, I don't think it was out of character for the First Order. Another thing that he said kind of bothers him was it was actually a lot of things, but he says he doesn't understand why the transport ships were shot one at a time, why they weren't like cluster bombed, because they don't have a cluster bomb. The Leviathan ship was the one that Snoke had big blasters. Don't get me wrong, but Poe Dameron took out the main ship. There's that all they have are their star destroyers at this time. So there's not really a lot of crazy force that they're going to be able to use to shoot the ship from behind. He also didn't like the fact that the bombers for the rebellion dropped bombs like they were in World War II. Uh, I can understand the frustration on that one. I feel like they should have come off as torpedoes, like instead of just being balls, which it did seem like lazy editing. I think they could have come up with a better design for it. They could have put like small thrusters so that whenever these things go off, they literally go and just shoot straight down, like, or at least put them on like rows where they just like go flying straight down and they go bam, 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 bam all the way through. Like I can understand some frustration in there, but one thing I could say is a possibility for that is that these ships are so big in the galaxy. These are star destroyers. These things are massive, and I would say that maybe these things have their own gravitational pull. Maybe not a lot, but enough to where if they were to drop these things that close, I mean, these things were probably only a few hundred feet above the Star Destroyers. So I would assume that they would have some gravitational pull back to them. As we've seen in other movies, things do get pulled into these ships. Um, Another thing he says was discussing issues he took with character development kind of going backwards from the first film. To me, it makes sense. Poe Dameron was the one that I really like, personally. He thinks that Poe Dameron's renegade personality, it annoyed him. And I really like it because as we were introduced to Poe in the first one, this is the legendary best fighter of the Resistance. This is a guy with a lot of potential. He's a shooter, though, as we see in the second film. He's a shoot first, ask questions later type of guy. And we're basically what we're learning is what his flaws are as a character, is that he shoots first, asks questions later, doesn't really have a lot of thought. And in my opinion, I feel like they're prepping him to be a full-fledged commander for the rebellion. Because he is obviously extremely smart, but they're trying to teach him humility. They're trying to teach him open-mindedness. They're trying to teach him battle tactics that he may not know. Because while he may be an amazing fighter and tactician when it comes to offensive assaults, he definitely lacks understanding towards defensive tactics, which I think is going to be the whole point of a trilogy, is that you learn over the course of 3 movies where they'll be at the end. And I feel that he's at a perfect time where now at the end of this movie where he'll be able to advance from that. That being said, we also look at Finn, who has a very similar thing. Whenever we first start out with Finn, he is a coward running away from the First Order. He's not doing it for honor. He's doing it because he's scared. He doesn't like it. And he doesn't want to do this work. Now, he has a brief moment at the beginning of this film where he's like panicking. He's like, dude, we're going to probably die. I don't want to die. So he wants to run away again. He just wants to hang out with Rey. It's all he wants is to protect himself and help Rey. So I feel that a lot of his fear is more of still this infatuation he has for Rey. I feel that towards the end of it, you see his growth. He stands up to Phasma. He also is willing to sacrifice himself for the rebellion to take out the Death Star tech on the planet of Crate. So I definitely felt that his character is making the same development, as well as a full understanding of where he really is in the greater scheme of things. Also, one thing I want to talk about here is the obvious thing in the room that people were kind of having issue with, which was the early departure of Snoke in the second movie. I was blown away by this. This was something that I did not see coming. It blew my mind because this is not something I saw anyone talking about. No one just even came up with the idea of Snoke dying. They thought that it would be like the Emperor, he'll be in there for 3 movies, that he was the real bad guy, when it's actually Kylo the whole time that was the one who we're worried about. It was crazy. And it also introduced us to something that I've only joked about talking with friends after seeing a couple fan films, which was the idea of, well, if these are Jedi and they have the ability to use the Force to manipulate the not matter, but to pull, push, and do things in the world, why not turn on a lightsaber or turn off a lightsaber in the middle of a fight of your opponent? Maybe it's an honor thing, or maybe it's just an ignorance thing where they've never considered it. But in the middle of this Snoke monologue, Kylo makes his decision to turn on Snoke. And he does this by force pushing the lightsaber of Rey's sideways and igniting it, cutting Snoke in half and killing Snoke. And while I think a lot of people are probably saying, "Oh, what if Snoke lived? What if they got him in a bacta tank?" Snoke's dead. Snoke's not coming back. They made sure to let you know that Snoke died by showing his hands still on the other side of his throne, as well as his face implanted on the ground, drooling. Snoke is gone. He's not coming back. Uh, that being said, I was tickled when I saw him do that because I was just like, they did that. That's finally something they did, and it was just really kind of funny to watch. But as for Adam Driver, dude, his acting went to another level for this film, because he's been the lapdog. He's been getting told what a POS he is by Snoke for this entire time. He's been told that he's a child being held back, and he finally realizes he is being held back by this idea of he's supposed to be like Vader. No, he's supposed to be Kylo Ren. He is his own villain. He is completely different. And now that he's sort of established that he is not this Darth Vader incarnation and that he's something worse, something more terrible, he's going to get more severely stronger. Like, he is now free of the chains that were holding him down. He has new levels of hatred because he's basically like a kid who's been made fun of for a long time, and now he's finally snapped. He is Rafi from A Christmas Story, basically. And he's going to snap and just start whooping up on some people. So I'm intrigued by the storyline that they're going to give now to Adam Driver's character and Kylo Ren. I think it'll be really interesting. Another thing that people wanted me to talk about was the fact that why did Princess Leia not die? How was she just unconscious in space and just alive all of a sudden? She had ice on her face. How was she alive? Well, before the torpedoes hit the outer doors or the outer window of the frigate, you see Carrie Fisher's character close her eyes as if like to accept her fate. And while it may seem like her knowing what's coming because she is force sensitive, she might know. I thought it would have been a way for her to channel and become a Force ghost, but it to me actually looks like she channels a different aspect of the mythos, which is not really discussed or shown before in film, which is like a Force aura or a field around her to protect her core being from being damaged in the thing. Because when she comes out of space, she doesn't have any exterior damage. She just experienced a massive explosion, which rocked the entire thing, killed everybody else on the bridge, even Admiral Akbar, and she has not a scratch on her hardly. And I feel that she had to use a Force ability like a Force aura to protect herself and put her in a state of protection. But even with the explosion, it was enough to render her unconscious. But the Force is everywhere. The Force is all being. The Force kept her alive in this instance, and she was able to regain consciousness, even though she wasn't controlling the Force at that moment. I believe that the Force was ongoingly protecting her because of her acknowledgement beforehand, and that's why she was able to pull herself back once she regained consciousness. But it was such a ability of strength from that it just took everything out of her. So that's why when she pulls herself back and goes to the door to be let back in, they let her in, and immediately she's just gone. She's like passes out. I think that's sort of the theme of this film, because we see the same thing with Luke at the end, which brings up the next thing, which was the final sequence between Kylo and Luke, because that was unreal. I was hooting and hollering in the theater because it was Luke Skywalker fighting Kylo Ren without fighting Kylo Ren. He was playing with him, and he didn't have to even fight him. There was not even a lightsaber battle, but it was so cool. It just reminded me a lot of like a Clint Eastwood style Luke Skywalker. It was so cool, and I I just can't words how I felt about that scene. It was just a really, really cool scene to see, and to have him projecting himself after seeing it happen by Snoke, it shows that there was something else. He was projecting himself from across the galaxy, and which makes sense that after he finished his projection, after he said his final goodbye to his sister, he he passes on to become one with the Force. His body is taxed enough to where he passes away, and that's, I thought, was the most unreal ending for Luke. Is he was able to confront his ghost. He went the same way as his teacher. He did what he had to do to help his sister and the people who he cared about, which was the whole goal of getting Luke Skywalker to begin with. So I feel that it was a beautiful send-off for Luke. That being said, there were a couple other things I'd like to address, which the PETA scene. There was a PETA segue in this film, and I call it that because I just felt that it was unnecessary. It felt like it was Hollywood trying to send us a message, where they go to this planet that's basically uses greyhounds, giant greyhound things, to sort of convey a animal cruelty type of deal, where these animals are used for amusement by racing them around tracks and, you know, smacking them with these electric prods to get them to go faster. Now, while I thought that this scene was completely unnecessary, it was very nice to be able to see this different part of the mythos and universe that we don't really see, which is the gambling people, the Bazak that's going on, all these new creatures that you see there, the scumbaggiest, richest folk of the universe that are sort of there just doing scumbag things. And while I didn't like that part of the film, I was able to get behind it because it showed us a different side of Star Wars that we have never seen before. I think the closest we ever came to that was the cantina in A New Hope, where we saw all these scumbag people just sort of hanging out, the worst kind of people. And then a little bit maybe in The Force Awakens at in that one sequence where they go to talk to I can't think of her name, Maz character, Maz Kanata's character. So basically, I feel that it was one of those things where it was like, it wasn't really necessary, but I really enjoyed it. It was really good. I would say overall this was a really amazing film. Probably still the second best film in the whole franchise. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I should discuss before ending the video. I would probably say that the twists and whatnot of this film, all the little things that happened that were just not expected, like all the little predictions that people had just being wrong, was probably the greatest thing about this film, because no one saw this coming. No one saw this type of Star Wars film coming. It just hit us all completely blind. So I was just very impressed with it. I thought that it was really well done. Rian Johnson is going to do an amazing job with the next trilogy he's got. I really hope he has something to do with the third one, because if there's another outer space fight scene, I really want him to be working with them for it, because it looked beautiful. It was so good. I think I addressed everything that needed to be addressed, though, as for people's main issues with it, and I hope that my expressing of the issues that people had was able to sort of like put to light maybe some of the reasons why some of the stuff should be possible, and not really looked at as negative aspects for the movie. Because I definitely felt that while this was different than any Star Wars movie we've seen, it was definitely one of those films that we should be able to enjoy because it is different, and it is something that stays relatively true to what the films were originally, which was that they are all Force things. But yeah, so I hope everybody really enjoyed this spoiler review. I hope that if you have any questions, obviously drop them in the comment section below. We'll definitely do our best to put out more movies in regards to this, and maybe even do a part 3 to the spoilers if there's anything that anyone else had questions about, or maybe had some, wanted a different take on. I'll answer anything in the comment section below. But as always, thank you very much for hanging out with me. Please leave a comment, give me a thumbs up or a dislike, whether you like the video or not. I appreciate the feedback. I hope you guys join me for future movie reviews from Maz Does Movies, and I will see you again next time. Bye, guys.